everyone, my name's Dee and I'm here with Tracey.
Hello.
And we knew the moon. Thank you so much for joining us today for New Moon in Gemini. Tracey's going to be taking us through a little guided exercise. First of all, I want to just let you know what you should do in preparation for this. Grab yourself your favorite notebook, your favorite journal, or somewhere where you can take notes on, and get yourself comfortable, blanket, or sit outside if the weather's nice. And if you like your herbal teas or coffees, or if you want to have a drink, then whatever you feel like to make yourself comfy, cozy, really in the right mindset for this exercise. If you want to grab some of your crystals, then go ahead. We always say just use your intuition, whichever ones call out to you, but we also always give you a suggestion for good ones for this time of the moon. The crystals we suggest are red jasper and selenite. We'll tell you more about them afterwards, but if you've got any of those, they might be good ones. Otherwise, like we say, just grab whatever ones are calling to you at the moment. And then the aromas, which again, you can use in candles or incense or oils, or you might use them in a bouquet or in your cooking around this time. Mint, caraway, sweet pea, fennel, chive, mugwort, and dandelion. So some of those are really good for cooking. Fennel and chive, mint.
I'm so excited sweet peas are in there. It's one of my favourite flowers alongside tulips.
Dandelions as well, really, really cute. Grab some from your garden.
Wildflower bouquets are the best, aren't they?
Beautiful, aren't they? So, and mugwort is a really good herbal tea. We always say that you can get them online. There's a website called Just Ingredients where I get mine from, and you can get bags of it for a very, very affordable price. And it's just a really, really nice herbal tea. I love it. It's supposed to help with lucid dreaming. That has never happened for me, but I still like the taste. So.
You're taking the wrong strength, Dee.
Maybe I need to have more, yeah. Right, so I'm going to hand over to Tracey now, who's going to do the guided meditation. Over to you, Tracey.
Thanks, Dee. New moon in Gemini. I'm excited for this one. Now, Dee's partner, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, is a sun sign Gemini. So this is an energy that I think Dee understands very well. It's a really lovely communicative sign. Chatterboxes, the ones that gather the information. Gemini is a sign of air, which is all associated with the throat chakra and communicating and interacting with others. It's also a really mutable sign though as well. So it can be quite airy in the sense that it flights from one conversation to the next, distracted when you were deep in conversation with someone and then you find yourself distracted by another thought, or you're feeling the need to interrupt, or you're darting from one point of focus to another. That is very much the sign of Gemini. But that isn't to say that we can't all use this new moon in Gemini to just assess how we're communicating with others, how we're interacting in the art of conversation, how we're journaling as well. So what we're doing with the information that we're gathering in our day-to-day lives, how we're picking up information and using it, how we're absorbing that information. It's that sign that likes to learn new things. It likes to journal. It likes to communicate, chat, meet new people, perhaps doing a course. There's never too much to gather in the sign of Gemini. So today I wanted us to do an exercise which helps us reflect on how we are in the art of conversation. Are we the chatterbox, the one that leads the way and doesn't give room for others to speak? Are we quite quiet in a conversation? Are we good listeners? Do we interact thoughtfully and appropriately? Do we interrupt a lot? Previously, you may have heard me mention the art of mindful conversation. And mindfulness is a word that's popping up more and more as we go into a really busy world. And it's just about being present in the moment of whatever you're doing. So some of us can go on mindful walks where you try and clear your thoughts and you'll just focus on the sights, the smells, the sounds that you're hearing and just being present. Some of us have mindful meditation where we focus on ourselves, on how we're feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. And it's the same for mindful conversation as well. So we take and strip back everything that's around us, distractions. We're not looking over the person's shoulder. We're not thinking about ourselves of what we want to interject in this conversation. We're not thinking of solutions either. So maybe someone's telling you a problem, a story, a worry. We're not feeling the need to interrupt. We're just being present in the conversation and giving that person that's speaking to us 100% attention. It's not an easy thing to do and something which takes a lot of practice. And there's also a time to do it as well. But it's always good to kind of use this new moon energy, in particular in Gemini, to just, like we like to do with all of our practices, use this time to reflect on this aspect. And today we're going to be doing communication and conversation and how we gather our information and process it. Get yourself into a quiet space, a space where you can just focus on this exercise without interruption. In a comfy seated position, hopefully you've got your essential oils burning or your incense or your crystals nearby. And let's just pause for a moment to let go of our thoughts of the day so far. And as always, let's do a quick body scan starting from the tip of our toes. And let's work slowly up through our body, just noting any feelings, maybe aches, tension. Scanning up through the legs. To our tummy. Note our breathing as we rise up through the rib cage. Nothing's forced. Relax into our body's natural flow. Breathe in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Scanning up through our shoulders. Down our arms. Perhaps give our fingers a little wiggle. Back to our head. Softly close your eyes. And just be. Let go of your thoughts of the day. Nothing's forced. That to-do list pops into your head, and then we breathe it out. As we pause for this moment. And let's just let go. And when you're ready, I want you to now prepare for a conversation with me. Giving me your full attention. You may want to visualize me entering the room as I start this conversation with you. Just prepare and be. I'm now going to tell you a story. This is an extract taken from a book, and it's a famous celebrity, so I'll tell you who it is afterwards, and see how we observe this communication. How Christmas should feel. When I was 11, I got a gerbil, Barney. It was not a popular purchase, nor was it easily achieved. I was like a dog's Greenpeace campaigner, dedicatedly fighting for what I believed in against equally resolute opposition. In a way, having to lobby so relentlessly to secure a pet set me in good stead in later life when seducing lots of women. Please take your bra off, please. Can I see your bottom? Oh, go on then. By puberty, I had learned that nothing worth having could be easily attained, and so to succeed, one must be single-minded. By my 20s, I would relish the challenge of chaste minds and the search for the correct combination of words required to decode their moral resistance. Jumping through hoops, ducking questions to sex. I'm not bothered about sex. We can just cuddle. How I adored that hard-won gerbil, Barney. A good, solid, blokey name for the new totem of my happiness. I worshipped Barney the way primitive people worship the animals they hunted, seeing in the creature a connection to the natural and the divine. My devotion was swiftly rewarded when Barney, with scant regard for his gender, quickly and brilliantly had a litter of babies. I treasure the memory of these tiny pink squirming chipolatas. It was miraculous, like how Christmas should feel. 6 of them there were, just squeaking, blind little nitwits, fetal and helpless at first. But with their diligent, ever-watchful man-mum constantly nurturing them, they all survived, passing through several adorable stages of their journey to maturity. They developed fur when they can see. There were 2 black ones, 2 gold ones, and 2 brown ones. An incredible gerbil spectrum. Who knew rodents were capable of such an array of colours? They would bumble about with their little eyes shut, mewing at the world. I wasn't meant to touch them in case their mum didn't like it, but I did all the time and Barney didn't mind. I let them run about my bedroom and Barney would scuttle about, collecting them up and popping them back in their nest. Oh, they were beautiful. They were like people living their little lives, growing day by day. Their eyes opened and they frolic and play and communicate by stamping their little feet like Dumper and Bambi. It was truly beautiful. And gerbil utopia. We were all equal and treated each other with respect. Then, the second they were old enough, the little perverts started fucking each other. Oh, well, I thought, ever the liberal, who cares if they're related, as long as they're taking precautions. But they weren't. Well, that doesn't matter. We'll soon have a mighty army of gerbils and we can begin a crusade to spread our values across the globe. Weeks passed, gerbils germinated. I awoke one morning, lifted my blurry head from the pillow and glanced over towards the colony to see Sandy, one of the females with a pink baby in her paws, just eating it. Chewing into its head, she was. As an infanticide was a natural way to begin the day as a croissant. For me, the sign of that day was a baby gerbil being eaten by its auntie. Good portent for the day, don't you think? The second generation stuck rigidly to the Old Testament model. I think Barney disgraced himself by getting pregnant with one of his son's children. I despaired of them. I did consider a Sodom and Gomorrah style smiting preserved only Barney, but then when I looked at their little faces, my wrath was stopped. How can I say mad at you, you cannibal little slags? And I'm going to stop there. It's from Russell Brand, my bookie book. And when I wanted us to have the practice for mindful conversation of just observing and listening, I find Russell Brand fascinating, but a very difficult person to follow. And I suggest to anyone who is struggling a little to practice just being peaceful and listening. Russell Brand is a really good place to start. He uses really long words. He goes off on tangents quite a bit. He's one of those people who loves the sound of his own voice. Sorry, Russell Brand, but you do. And
did you know that he's a Gemini?
No, I didn't know he was a Gemini. That's interesting.
It. Yeah.
That is really interesting.
I mean, he's the epitome of Gemini energy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is. He goes off on tangents. He gathers information and then processes. You can see the cogs turning. Yeah.
Very funny, very sociable, but yeah, definitely scattered.
Yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed. Thank you, Russell Brand. It's called My Bookie Walk. It's his first biography. Sorry for the swearing. It was actually probably one of the least rude chapters I could find with the least swear words. And I liked his story of the gerbil too. But it is this art of being in a conversation and listening to people, whether they're chatty box Geminis like Russell Brand, maybe they are more quiet and you have to get information out of them by asking mindful questions. I want us to just do a quick exercise, a little journaling of our practice for that conversation that we just had as well. Although it was just me talking, you may enter conversations where that other person is just spitting out words at you and you can't pause or interact at all. First of all, grab your journal and I'm just going to ask you a few questions about how you processed all of that information from Russell Brand's book. So first of all, write down, what did I talk about? What did you hear there? If you had to retell someone what I just told you out of Russell Brand's book, write down how you would say it. What did you hear? What information did you gather? And unfortunately, in a podcast, it's really hard to practice the art of mindful conversation because it is just a one-way ticket where I'm talking at you and you can't speak back to me. But imagine that we were in a room right now and I was rattling on about my gerbil and having babies and there was a pause. Were there any questions there that you wanted to ask me, pretending to be Russell, about his gerbils? Or what questions would you ask? The art of being in a mindful conversation is to try and keep the conversation pointed at that person. So we talk about how it's very easy to join in a conversation by reverting it back to you. I went on holiday to Barbados. Did you? So did I. And then you revert back to your time in Barbados. Instead, the art of mindful conversation is to ask them, well, when did you go on holiday? Who did you go with? You're keeping the pinpoint at that person by allowing them to speak. You're using the Gemini energy of gathering information. So in this context, what questions would you ask Russell Brand and his gerbil to get more information? Did you feel the need to interrupt me, pause me, or did you get distracted by doing something else? I think with people like Russell Brand, who speak very quickly and don't pause for air, you do start to feel a bit panicky and wanting to interrupt or just say, whoa, stop for a second, just give me a breather. Did you feel that way? Did you get distracted and stop listening half the way through? How did you react when I was speaking there? And were you pleading, willing, wanting it to just end? It's okay if you were. We all sometimes feel quite rushed in conversation to get to the end, to get to the point. I'm one of these people, when I tell a story, I like to start from the very beginning and describe it in great detail. I get it from my mom. And then when my mom does it, I think, come on, mom, get to the point, like get to the end. But the art of mindful conversation is just being there, not willing it to start, not willing it to end, just being present in what that person's telling you. So how were you feeling when I was reading to you? Were you willing me to finish? And finally, one thing which Dee and I can really relate to, and I'm sure some of you can as well, is the art of empathy in a conversation. There's always the level of being interactive, asking the right questions, giving the right pauses, not being too chatty, but not being too quiet. But there's the element of empathy that you can add to a conversation as well. Were you feeling any emotions during the conversation? Was it triggering anything for you? Were you able to see this story from that person's perspective? How empathetic did you feel towards me speaking to you? There is a really good website I found while researching for this episode. It's called mindtools.com. It is a really lovely website that lets you fill in. I love a quiz. I see it as a quiz. It's a survey. And it gets you to answer how you behave in a conversation, and it breaks it down into empathy, interacting, all these things. And then it scores you at the end of it, so you can see what kind of conversationalist you are and the areas that you need to improve. So maybe you do need to be more empathetic in a conversation. Maybe you need to interject more. Maybe you need to listen more. We're all different. We all have different elements to us, but it's always good to do this exercise just to process how you're being, and are you being mindful enough in your interactions? Perfect. So hopefully it's given you some pause for thought. I don't think the art of mindful conversation is talked about enough. We're all very busy meditating, and we're all busy trying to do a million things. We don't often analyse how we react to others just in a very normal chit chat. We've dealt with conflict, we deal with release, we deal with love, we deal with all sorts. But what about just the normal day-to-day stuff?
I totally agree that we don't reflect very often on how we interact with others. But it is really common, isn't it, that you're in a conversation and you're kind of just waiting for your turn to speak or interjecting what you know, or we all do it, don't we?
I've known about this mindful conversation a while, and I do try my best to practice it, although I am a chatterbox. You achieve so much more out of a conversation by gathering information from that person rather than your ego wanting to give them your information. Think
Right.
about what you get out of a conversation with someone.
So I'm going to direct you to the downloadable New Moon and Gemini sheet that we have on our website. If you haven't downloaded it yet, if you haven't looked at it, don't worry, I'm going to go through it now. We produce them for every new moon and every full moon. And the notes on this time of the moon and of the year is that you are craving spontaneity and liberation right now. Make sure this doesn't come at the cost of others' feelings. That's so true of Geminis, isn't it? That they're not selfish at all, but perhaps sometimes not considering others. And the minute you point out to a Gemini that you've been hurt by something, they are so apologetic, and it's the last thing they would want to do in the world to hurt you. Sometimes it's just a little bit of a lack of consideration. Share what is going on in your head with those around you. Now, there might be quite a lot going around in your head during this Gemini period, but it's always a good idea to have someone to use as a sounding board and to share your thoughts and your feelings with. Good things to do at this time. Meditation might help ground you right now, because again, that Gemini energy is so up in the air, isn't it? And so frantic at times. As well as surrounding yourself with your biological or your chosen family. I really like that. I like the idea of your chosen family. Also, when was the last time you read a good book? So it's a good time to try to, like we said, Geminis like learning. So it might be a good time to pick up a good book. The affected organs during this time are the arms, the respiratory system, and the nervous system. So I wonder if that's because it's like, a Gemini being an air sign.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The nervous system, maybe because of all that nervous energy.
Yeah, it can seem like nervous energy with Geminis because it's so flightsy and darty, but it's just excitability.
Yeah,
I think.
The aromas, we talked about them already, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about what they are, what they symbolize, and what they represent, and what they help with. So mint That might be spearmint, peppermint. Peppermint's obviously a very accessible oil. It's not very expensive and it can be found in most places, like our shop. It can really help with the digestion. That's why you have like peppermint tea after your meal. But it's also really good for headaches. I learned this recently and it's been just absolutely fantastic. So if you've got the start of a headache, you put a drop or two of peppermint into your palms, you cup your hands, covering your nose and your mouth with your palms, making sure that the fumes aren't going into your eyes because it can sting and burn. But you cup your hands with the peppermint oil in, you cover your mouth and your nose with it, and you breathe in deeply. And it can really help lift the start of a headache.
Which Gemini energy could give you, because it is all to do with brain communication, must gather information, very hard to switch off. So of course it could give you a headache, right?
Yeah. Caraway. Caraway is often, it smells very much like mint. It smells like spearmint, actually. It's a really nice smell, but it's a very good oil for giving you physical energy and for love. So sweet pea, we said it'd be adorable to have sweet pea bouquet at a time, maybe with some dandelions as well, as that is also on the list. But it's really good for happiness, but also for courage.
I can see why. Just the smell of a sweet pea makes you feel happy, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Fennel. Fennel and chive are both very good for purification and for warding off negativity. So both of those are on the list, and both of them delicious in cooking. Fennel is also really good for menstrual cramps. Did you know that?
No.
Because I get cravings for fennel. I'm going to pay attention to see whether I get cravings for fennel during that time of the month.
They always say that your body does crave what you need.
Mugwort is really good for sort of conscious work with your dreams, and with psychic awareness. So just a general good all-rounder, and also very delicious as a tea. Apparently you can smoke it as well.
I think it's black sage. If you see black sage, that's mugwort. So you can buy it in its sage stick smudgy form as well to have it burn in.
And then dandelion is a really lovely one. There's so many things you can do with dandelion during dandelion season. It's really good for healing emotional and physical pain. You can make tinctures using it. As we mentioned, the element associated with this new moon in Gemini is air. And the characteristics associated with air are very Gemini. It's intellectual, analytical, communicative, curious, inventive, perceptive. The associated tarot suits, so if you're a reader, if you use tarot cards, swords. So again, they're logical, they're reasonable, intellectual, just and decisive. So also very Gemini traits. So the crystals, we talk about one of them a lot, selenite, don't we? Because selenite is Greek for the stone of the moon. So it's really good for compassion, for extending compassion. It's also super useful if you're trying to break cycles. This is something I learned recently. So I have got this amazing book called Crystal Clear by Golnaz Alibagi. Really recommend it. It's a beautiful book, and it's got loads of different things you can do with your crystals. But the book recommends attaching selenite to your phone to remind you to think twice before making a call to a so-called friend who always brings you down.
Wow, that is really interesting. Yeah. Breaking cycles and emotional attachment. That's a really interesting one. To me, selenite looks a bit like the moon. It's got that really luscious, sort of translucent form to it. And it was in a ball. And I sent Dee a picture last week because it rolled off the table and split into two. Broken-hearted I was when I broke it, but always tried to see the bright side of my selenite split into two for a reason. So now you're talking about detachment and breaking cycles. Maybe I'm supposed to do something with part of the stone as a little ritual for breaking something.
Maybe you've broken the cycle. Maybe that's why it broke.
Hopefully. What's red jasper mean, Dee?
So red jasper is really good for sexual passion.
Because it's red, it's that stone of fire and ambition, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So lots of the red ones have to do with that energy, don't they? So it's a really good one to bring into the bedroom.
It's also a good one for your root chakra to ground you a little bit because it's red and the root chakra is red, these red stones. and a good one to protect you against emotional bullying, to help you find courage or emotional strength if you are being bullied or manipulated.
And the other thing that red jasper is really good for is fresh starts. So if you're looking for one, if you are starting one, then red jasper, grab your red jasper and have that around for you.
That's what new moon is all about. New starts.
Exactly. I say this every time I read one of our affirmations, but I love this one. My knowledge and wisdom grows daily. So write that down somewhere, have it accessible, put it in your journal, write it on a Post-it note and stick it on your computer screen. That's what I do with mine. My knowledge and wisdom grows daily. Isn't that lovely?
So nice. We've made it into a little affirmation card for you as well. So you can download it in a pretty little card form and have it, like Dee says, stuck to wherever you look the most.
And the numerology, the number that you might see popping up or you should pay attention to if you see it popping up a lot for you, is the number 5, which is unique, creative, intellectual, energetic, which is definitely a Gemini thing, rational and grounded. So keep an eye out for number 5. Not everyone's going to be a crystal person. Not everyone's going to do tarot, but we like to include a little bit for everyone and different things to look into if you're interested, right?
Yeah, and Gemini is a great time to gather that information. Dee and I always say we do what we want and we don't follow the rules. And so just go with what is popping out to you. Find your deity, read some books, learn about stuff. If spells are your thing, then go with it. If they're not, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just everyone's different and everyone gathers different things. And that's what makes us human, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was New Moon in Gemini for you. We hope you have a lovely new moon and a lovely fresh start and a lovely clean slate. And we will see you at the next full moon. Bye.
Happy new moon, everyone. Bye.
If you enjoyed that and you want more from us, why don't you head over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/We Knew the Moon, and check out some bonus content.
Also, if you want to stay up to date, you can follow us on our Facebook page at we.knew.the.moon. If you could leave us a review on our Facebook page, that would mean a lot.
Our Instagram handle is the same as our Facebook, at we.knew.the.moon. We are on Twitter at We Knew the Moon 1, and we are also on Pinterest. Just search for We Knew the Moon.
Finally, if you want lots more fun, moon info and all things spiritual, plus our lovely shop, please visit our website, wenewthemoon.co.uk.